Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Later in our Your Health segment, the Ice Bucket Challenge raised a lot of money for ALS research. We will find out how that could make a difference. That is coming up. First tonight, Election Day is tomorrow, you may have heard, so we invited the candidates for governor to join us for their final arguments. Joining us now is Republican nominee Larry Hogan. Mr. Hogan, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Even with our well-informed audience, there may be a few undecided voters out there. What would you say to them to get them off the fence?
Well, it's a pretty clear decision, I think. If voters are happy with the direction that the state has been heading, they probably should vote for my opponent. But if they're not happy with the direction, they probably ought to think about voting to change direction. And whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or independents, if they want to see our state economy improve, if they're concerned about taxes and the fact that we've doubled unemployment, they should probably vote for me tomorrow.
Best article I've read on this campaign from a non-local news organization was Politico a week or two ago. Did a story about how it's become a competitive race. And I think the first line was something like, Larry Hogan has been crisscrossing Maryland, promising voters that he won't do things if he's elected governor. The idea being that as a Republican, your views may be right of center, certainly right of Maryland center, and you're saying that in terms of gun control, abortion, you're not going to do anything.
None of those are issues in this campaign, and I've said from the beginning nothing's going to change on any of those issues, and we've focused like a laser beam on the economy, on cutting back spending and taxes and getting people back to work. It's been received very well by the voters, and it's exactly what they want people to focus on. It's the same thing I've been talking about, the things they're concerned about. My opponent hasn't, and I think that's why he dropped 18 points in the polls, and we're now ahead.
The issues that he likes to talk about, running ads on gun control and abortion, even if you wanted to change state law, if you're elected as a Republican governor with a Democratic legislature, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Well,
however, the governor of Maryland has a lot of administrative power and a lot of budget power. What can you say to convince a voter who's concerned about that of your intentions?
Well, look, I've said from the beginning that I'm not going to change any of the laws on any of these issues. During the primary, I was criticized for being too moderate. Both the Washington Post, the Baltimore Sun, and the Maryland Democratic Party praised me for my moderate positions on social issues. Anthony Brown has completely misled the voters with what have been called the most dishonest and most negative campaigns ads in the entire country. They're all completely false, and obviously the voters of Maryland have rejected them, which is why he's going to lose the race tomorrow.
We had two political science professors on State Circle, our political show, on Friday, and I asked what they thought the odds were of an upset, meaning a Hogan victory. One said 10 to 20%, the other said 50%. What do you really think?
Well, the only two recent polls that have been taken in the past 10 days both show me ahead. One is 3 points up, one is 5 points up. Real Clear Politics today calls the race a toss-up. The Cook Political Report a couple of days ago called it a toss-up. Politics One calls it a pickup for the Republicans. Most of the national media is now calling for an upset here and said this will be the biggest upset in the country.
What about the ground game? The idea that the Democratic Party in Maryland has far more in the way of resources to mobilize voters in Democratic strongholds and make sure they vote than the Republican Party in Maryland, which is chronically underfunded, sometimes underwater.
Well, I built the largest grassroots organization in state history with Change Maryland. We have, as of today, 125,000 people involved in our ground game, and half of them are Democrats and independents. Nobody's ever put an organization like this together in the history of the state. It has nothing to do with the Republican Party. Our organization, half of our members are Democrats and independents. And they have outspent us by $16 million in special interest money. We're running a publicly financed campaign with a grassroots effort. But in spite of all of the $16 million of attack ads and all their powers of incumbency, and we're still going to win the race.
Let's take some phone calls. Baltimore City, this is Kelly. Kelly, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kelly Cross, and I'm a resident of Baltimore City. Moved here about 4 years ago from Washington. I think there's a great constituency for you, Mr. Hogan, here in Baltimore City. Wish I'd seen you a little more here in the city campaigning. But I am curious, what's your vision of the role of Baltimore City in the state? How do you and how does the Republican Party here in Maryland more generally see the role of Baltimore City?
All right, Kelly.
More specifically, transportation. Yeah. What's your view on the Red Line and transportation in Baltimore City?
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you, Kelly. First of all, we've spent an enormous amount of time in Baltimore City, probably more than my opponent has. We were in there today. We were there yesterday. We've been in almost every single neighborhood in the city. We're finding great support there. Baltimore City's the economic engine of the state. Our economy's way off track, and Baltimore is suffering more than any place else. We've lost almost all of our Fortune 500 companies out of the city of Baltimore. We've lost 8,688 small businesses, many of them in the city of Baltimore. Unemployment has doubled in Maryland. Up to 200,000 people are unemployed. It's even higher in Baltimore. It's an area that we really have to focus on. It'll be an important priority for us. With respect to transportation, our big issue with transportation is the O'Malley Brown administration has robbed $1 billion from the Transportation Trust Fund, which has really dug a huge hole. We've got a lot of backed up road projects because very little transportation effort has been done for the past 8 years. And we're going to focus on roads first, and hopefully we can get our economy back on track, put people back to work, get some more businesses back here so we can eventually do the Red Line.
All right, so Lieutenant Governor Brown favors building the Purple Line, building the Red Line. You favor delaying both?
Well, Lieutenant Governor Brown, that's $5.3 billion worth of spending that he's proposed without any discussion about how to pay for it. And they haven't built.
Well, I mean,
they haven't done anything to build roads for the past 8 years.
That was the gas tax increase.
The gas tax increase is supposed to go towards fixing the roads that they took the $1 billion out of. It's not. We've spent 56% of the little bit of money they left in transportation on mass transit, even though 6% of the people utilize it. The real issue in Maryland is roads. That's what 90% of the state is concerned about, and that's where we're going to focus.
Wicomico County, this is Al. Al, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations, Larry. This is Alan Dabowski, and I wanted to ask you, are you going to battle out these rain tax issues and get rid of some of this other trash? And will you invite all those companies back into Maryland and take an axe to their taxes and get people back to work?
All right. Thank you very much.
Sounds like a great question. Thank you.
A little soft, but go ahead.
We've led the fight against the rain tax and got tens of thousands of people engaged and involved in the issue. It wasn't the worst tax. It wasn't the one that cost people the most, but it's the one that has people the most outraged. It's overwhelmingly unpopular. We're the only state in the nation that taxes the rain, and I've pledged to try to do everything I can to repeal the rain tax. We've got to convince the legislature to go along with that. But as far as bringing companies back and putting people back to work, that's what my entire focus has been on. Really, we have 3 self-inflicted wounds. One, we're an anti-business state with an anti-business attitude. CEO Magazine ranks us 41st out of 50 states in business friendliness. That will change on day one when I'm governor. Secondly, we have an onerous, unpredictable, constantly changing regulatory environment. People say to me, I moved my business to Virginia, got everything approved in 90 days that I couldn't get done for 2 years in Maryland. That's going to change. And third, we're the 5th highest tax state in the nation. We've raised taxes 40 times in a row. We raised the corporate tax under O'Malley and Brown to 8.25%, while Virginia was only 6% and New York is only 6%. They cut theirs in New York. And so businesses are making economic decisions. It's why we've lost 8,688 businesses. I'm going to focus on trying to help Maryland businesses grow and create more opportunities, more jobs, and more revenues for our state. And I'm going to try to do everything I can to attract businesses back to the state.
It's an interesting caller who's kind of rah-rah, let's cut corporate taxes. But that's...
He was talking about the rain tax primarily, but he talked about a lot of different taxes.
Yeah, but the corporate tax is the one that you've specified. You want to roll it back from 8 to 6.
Well, actually, I've spent the past 3.5 years leading the fight against all 40 of the O'Malley Brown tax increases. 90% of the things I've been talking about are the 38 regressive taxes that have really crushed struggling Maryland families and small businesses. And Anthony Brown has tried to change the subject to only talk about the corporate tax, which I wasn't talking about cutting. I said they shouldn't have raised it. They raised it to 8.25%, made us completely uncompetitive with any of the other states in our region, and caused us to lose 8,000 businesses. It was a mistake.
You're not saying, though, vote for me, I'm going to roll back the sales tax or the gas tax or some other tax.
The ones I focused on were immediately, we talked about the RAIN tax, and I talked about cutting taxes on retirement income, because every single day, everywhere I go in the state, people say to me, I love the state of Maryland. I've spent most of my life here. I don't want to leave my kids and grandkids, but I can't afford to retire here on a fixed income. So that's where we're going to focus, on those taxes.
And we know that the state, again, has a projected deficit for the next fiscal year. So already looking at red ink, if you cut taxes, what do you do to balance the budget?
Well, we've got to cut spending, obviously. Peter Franchot said, you know, the chickens have come home to roost. This administration has spent too much, taxed too much, and borrowed too much, and we can't keep doing it. Peter Franchot sounded the alarm. He's talking about the same things I'm talking about. The fact that we have a $405 million shortfall in spite of 40 tax increases that have crushed our economy. We've got to cut spending and cut taxes. If we don't, there's going to be an automatic increase of 67% in the property taxes, which is the last thing in the world we need.
Prince George's County, this is Cindy. Cindy, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Hogan, I work in social services, and I voted for Governor Ehrlich a few years ago. And immediately after becoming governor, he cut the mental health budget by 25%. And so when you say that you're going to cut, I am wondering, hoping that you are not intending to cut the mental health budget, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And I'm wondering what your stand is. Where are you going to cut in order to lower all these taxes?
Cindy, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. It's a great question. First of all, I don't know that that's true about what happened in the Ehrlich administration. I do know there were serious cuts in the O'Malley Brown administration to mental health, which I think was a mistake. We're not talking about cutting any serious important services. We're talking about, we're going to do independent outside audits of every single state agency and department to try to find and eliminate the waste, fraud, inefficiency, and duplication of effort. We believe there's about 5% of the budget that can be cut. That'd be $2 billion, which could provide a lot of tax relief without hurting any services. And if we don't start to cut taxes, and we can't get businesses, jobs back in the state, and we can't keep our taxpayers in the state, you know, we've lost 31,000 taxpayers that voted with their feet and headed for the exits because of all these onerous taxes. We're not going to have money for the important services. The only way we're going to be able to pay for mental health services and to pay for education and transportation, all these, is to get the economy back on track. What they've done for the past 8 years has not worked. We've had zero economic growth. Our state economy ranks 49th out of 50 states. Other states in the country are recovering, and Maryland is not. We're coming up, pulling up behind. We've lost 200,000 jobs and 8,000 businesses. We can't keep moving Maryland backwards for another 4 years, and the voters of Maryland simply can't afford another 4 years of O'Malley Brown tax and spend politics as usual.
Let me come back to the tactical stuff. We had early voting wrapped up last week, I guess. And we saw more people voting early. Not a lot of independents. I'm sure your campaign has dug into the numbers.
Right.
We know we don't know who people voted for. We know where they voted. What do you learn from that?
Well, first of all, I was very encouraged by the fact that a lot more people took advantage of early voting. It was a bigger turnout than we've ever had, and I think that's a good thing. I'm glad people are starting to get used to it. We feel really good that that many people came out, because our campaign is the one with all the enthusiasm, with all the momentum, and we believe a lot of those voters came out and voted for us, but we're going to find out tomorrow night.
All right, Larry Hogan, Republican for governor, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Jeff.
We appreciate it. And again, I should note that, of course, we did extend the invitation to join us tonight to both of the campaigns for governor. And just ahead tonight, the latest on treatments for ALS. We'll be right back.
Tonight on MPT2.
On Masterpiece Mystery.
You stand indicted for murder. How say you, George Wickham?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
Darcy must have nothing further to do with this sordid trial.
Lydia Wickham has done something rather foolish.
No, I don't.
Why is it children must always pay for the sins of their fathers?
Matthew Rhys, Anna Maxwell Martin, and Matthew Good star in Death Comes to Pemberley. on Masterpiece Mystery.
Tonight at 8 on MPT2.
Only rarely do you have an election that redefines both parties and sets the tone for decades to come. That's 1964.
It transformed the way that politicians talked to their electorate through their advertising.
The Daisy commercial was born. They kicked up the notch of dirty politics.
We must either love each other or we must die.
Tonight at 10 on MPT.
By the time you view this, MPT will have aired 4 separate gubernatorial debates. Plus, we've covered the upcoming elections on our Friday State Circle program for weeks. So in a sense, our job's done. Now it's your turn. 38 governorships and more than 400 jobs in Congress are up for grabs in the midterm elections, including the top post right here in Maryland. It's time to vote. Go to the polls on Tuesday, November 4th, and cast your ballot. That's what good citizens do. And we just thought you ought to know.
And joining us in the studio now for this week's Your Health segment is Dr. Justin Kwan, Assistant Professor of Neurology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine and Medical Director of the Maryland ALS Center at the University of Maryland's Medical Center Midtown campus. Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
We have all seen all of the coverage of the Ice Bucket Challenge that went viral, and so many people participated and so much money was raised. I'm not sure everybody focused on the disease itself, so let's focus in on ALS and just what it is.
Sure. I think that's a great question. ALS is a progressive neurodegenerative condition where the neurons in our brain and spinal cord, they don't function normally. And as a result, these neurons are very important in helping us control our muscles and allowing us to do our day-to-day tasks. And the degeneration of these neurons result in progressive weakness and difficulty for our patients to use their arms and legs, and they also have trouble speaking and swallowing.
Is it always fatal, ultimately?
Yes. The disease progression ultimately leads patients to have more difficulty with breathing, and that's what usually gets our patients to trouble. Although there is quite a bit of difference from patient to patient, the duration of the disease, from the time of onset of symptoms to the time that they develop respiratory difficulties.
You think of people who mercifully, thankfully have done well, O.J. Brigance of the Baltimore Ravens. Does Stephen Hawking, the astrophysicist, does he have ALS?
Well, that's a question I get very commonly.
Because he's been living with it for decades.
Sure, and of course, I've never personally examined Dr. Hawkins, but certainly it has been proposed that he's likely to have ALS, although I think that he probably lies outside the typical patients that we see in our clinical practice.
Right. That typical patient, what are the initial symptoms that they come in with?
So that's actually one of the major difficulties in making a diagnosis for this disease, because patients can come in with a variety of different symptoms. One of the earliest symptoms can just be muscle cramps, although this is a very non-specific symptom, and even healthy individuals can have muscle cramps. Most commonly, our patients come to see us because they develop progressive weakness either in their arm or leg, or the patients notice that they have more trouble with speaking or swallowing, and that's what really brings them to the medical attention. So as you can see, that different patients can develop different types of symptoms as their initial symptoms of onset for ALS.
How is the diagnosis made?
So there is actually not a one test that allows us to make the diagnosis of ALS. Patients really has to seek out more specific and specialized care at a center where the neurologist can recognize the clinical symptoms, and really it also relies on exclusion of other potential causes that may mimic ALS.
Is there an advantage, certainly with some conditions, there's an advantage to catching it early, where you have a good therapy available. Is there in this case?
Absolutely. I think that we're doing more for ALS patients today than ever before. So it really is worthwhile for the patient to get the correct diagnosis as soon as possible for several different reasons. Number one, we can start and implement therapies that may potentially delay the progression of the disease. And also, I think for the patients who may have their care in a more specialized center, it gives them an opportunity to participate in clinical trials.
What's the average survival length of time that somebody can continue to function and then ultimately live?
Sure. The duration of disease and the duration of a patient's functional abilities can vary from individual to individual. But on average, really a patient can develop respiratory symptoms that really leads to more progressive difficulties in about 3 to 5 years.
Right. Obviously, a very difficult diagnosis for people. Obviously, a big question is the cause. I mean, who gets it? Why do they get it?
So currently, we still don't have a specific cause as to what causes ALS. About 5 to 10% of ALS is hereditary, so there are a number of genes that have been identified which can lead to the diagnosis of ALS. But for the vast majority of the patients, we still don't have a specific cause that leads to the disease itself.
And in the case where there may be a genetic cluster in a family, sure, there's not anything you can do to help somebody ward it off or delay the onset?
Right now, we still don't unfortunately, we still don't have an effective treatment that can delay the progression for onset of the disease itself.
Right. Talk about the research. What's the most promising thing that's going on now?
Well, so I think as a result of the Ice Bucket Challenge, there is certainly a big impetus, and the funding was very helpful to jumpstart ALS therapeutics. And I think right now there are some really exciting treatments that are in the pipelines. I think that we're all looking forward to the possibility of developing new genetic methods to target those mutated genes to perhaps, as you have mentioned, to delay the progression of a familial form or genetic forms of ALS. And of course, I think what's frequently on patients' mind is stem cell therapy. And I think this is an area that's exciting, and I think that certainly that it has a lot of potential. But there are other avenues that's being investigated for us to see whether or not there are effective treatments using targeting other pathways.
With the severity of the diagnosis of the condition, the emotional health, the mental health of patients must be a big concern. How do you deal with that?
I think that is absolutely true. I think for our patients to be confronted with a life-threatening illness during the prime of life is a major challenge, both for themselves and their families. And that's why we have we frequently and often recommend that patients get involved with the ALS Association, because there are support groups. There are also support groups for their caregivers. And I think within the context of our clinic, we have social workers that can provide follow-up care and just really to carefully counsel and support these patients and their families.
What's the demographic breakdown of the people who get it? I mean, does it mimic the broader population? Is it more men, women, certain ages? What do you see?
So the average onset of symptoms is in the sixth decade of life, so it really affects patients in most individuals in the 50s and 60s. It's very rare for ALS to occur in patients, in individuals under the age of 40. Okay. But we do see this is an adult onset disease.
Let's take a phone call. Baltimore County, this is John. John, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was wondering if Parkinson's disease and ALS are the same, or they mimic one another. I'm trying to see what diagnosis is made now.
John, thank you. Great question.
Okay, so there's a major difference between Parkinson's disease and ALS. They're both neurodegenerative conditions. However, different portions of the brain and the nervous system are affected by these two different disorders. In ALS, it's the motor neurons, the neurons that control our movement, that are affected. Whereas in Parkinson's disease, different regions of the brains that control the smooth movements, the rapidity of movements are affected.
And I want to come back to what you said about the advantage of being at an ALS center for patients in terms of what you do. It's about the patient, it's also about the family.
Sure. So there's quite a lot of advantage for patients to have their care in a multidisciplinary clinic like ours. because what we call a one-stop shopping for the patients and their families. We bring all the care providers to the patients, physical therapy, occupational therapist, speech and language pathologist, dietitian, and pulmonologist. So we see the patients in one setting so that the patient and the families, they won't have to travel to many different appointments.
Very good. Dr. Justin Kwan of the University of Maryland School of Medicine, University of Maryland Medical Center, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us for Direct Connection. We're back Thursday with Your Money in Business. Have a good night.
Your Health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.